One,
Gang.
let's go. Our guest today is the globally and galactically renowned artist, DJ, producer, and all around creative genius. He's a music innovator, multimedia powerhouse, and a one-man record label that is known for creating unforgettable sonic experiences. The sounds brought to reality by this man's mind cannot be bound by any genre except the one he defined himself as creator of the Meaningwave Universe. What is Meaningwave? It is an ongoing musical epic story and psychotechnology developed with the aim of helping listeners achieve their potential in this lifetime. Created by cutting up the speech with the beat and adding some crack and vinyl. The epic story that is Meaningwave features voices from epic individuals from across space and time, including Jordan Peterson, Alan Watts, Marcus Aurelius, David Goggins, Naval Ravikant, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and many, many others. He's currently engaged in a long-running experiment in ridiculous hyperproductivity and zone inhabitation. And today we'll talk to him about art, creativity, philosophy, meaning, and much more. So please help me in welcoming our guest today, a man who's got clout, Akira the Don. Akira, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate having you here.
Well, that was an intro.
Absolutely, man.
That wasn't an intro. I've never heard an intro in my life. That was an intro.
Oh man,
Congratulations on your intro.
thank you, man. My intro game is strong.
Yo, that's shit crazy. Your intro game is nuts.
Biting off of Tom Billy style, but I think but if for anyone this was the best intro to write because you've done a lot for me from so far without even knowing, man. I would not be who I am today if it wasn't out for Akira the Don, which is crazy to think about. But if you guys have been listening to this podcast long enough, you've heard me talk about Akira the Don for a couple of years, over hundreds of episodes. And I guess let's just jump right into it, man. There's something that you always say that I love, and it's that it's a beautiful time to be alive. So why is it right now such an amazing time to be alive?
Well, shit. Like the sun is shining. I got up today. How about you? Did you get up? I think you
I
got
did.
up. It looks like you got up. Has anyone tried to murder you lately? Today? Has anyone tried to murder you today?
Not today. Nope.
Did anyone try and like take your woman by force?
Nope.
You know what I mean? Did anyone throw a brick at you? You
None
know
of
what I
those
mean?
things happen. Yeah.
Did you eat mud?
Nope.
You know what I mean? Did you vomit blood out of your ass?
No.
You know what I mean?
That's the
When you bit into something, did your whole face like shrink back in agony?
no.
You are doing so much better than 99.999% of your fucking ancestors. By Jove!
I know,
Look at
man.
you.
That is crazy.
Look at you. You're like a king. You know what I mean? Look at you there in your purple room with your beautiful hair and your fine beard and your eyebrows and your rosy cheeks and your nice clothes and your cleanliness in general and all these miracles talking to people on the other side of the world via crazed electronic magic trickery. It is mental. Look at you like a fucking like just a couple decades ago, there was only like fucking 12 people on the planet who got to do what you do. You know what I mean? You got to talk to people on microphones and communicate with thousands of people across the world. What the fuck is going on?
We've seized the means of production, man. We've seized the means of
Yo,
production.
yes, very much so. Very much so. You'd have thought that certain ists would be very happy at this point, you know. But, some people are never happy, no
But
matter what fucking miracles get like lobbed upon them.
As much it is an absolute beautiful time to be alive. No better time in history to be alive than right now. But is there anything about today's time that makes it also potentially one of the scariest times to be alive?
You could just as easily say this is the worst time to be alive. You could just as easily go, oh my God, it's fucking awful. You're bombarded with radiation wherever you go. People have got their faces stuck in these weird little magic boxes of doom. People's daughters are prostituting themselves on this OnlyFans thing. What you call them? People's mermaid daughters are on OnlyFins. It's horrible. What the fuck is going on? People don't connect like they used to. They're eating trash. It's disgusting. You jump in the river, it's full of poison. Blah, 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 blah. You could look at all the stuff that it had that at one point was different and possibly quite arguably much better. And you could focus on all that stuff and say, this is the fucking worst time to have ever lived. You could do that. And what would happen would be, is you would have a shit life. You would wander around, you would see horrible things, and you would be depressed and miserable. And that's what you would put out into the world, and that would be your lot, and the lot of those who came into contact with you. So it's not optimal. Uh, you know what I mean? The optimal way is obviously to focus on the good and the great and the blessings, and that leads to more of those, and that leads to a better world, not just for you, but for everyone you come into contact with, everyone you're networked with, and that's how it works. So I personally choose to focus on the glory and the wonder, which there always is and there always has been glory and wonder. But it just so happens that right now it's really easy to look at that because you can go, look, fucking most of the people I know are not dying of abject fucking poverty and disease and horror. And I live in a so-called third world country, and people here live good. You know what I mean? So like I always say, like we could focus on the dark aspects, and we should definitely be aware of them. Like
Yeah,
naivety is not smart. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But also being a fucking nihilist is not smart either. That's not a useful frame. It's an easy frame. It's easy to be a nihilist. Yeah, oh, nothing matters. Oh shit is dreadful, whatever the fuck. That's easy. That means you have no responsibility and you don't have to do anything. But again, like you pick that path that leads to a shit time for you. You know,
It's
that leads
choices,
to
right? It
misery
it
and
comes
suffering. Yeah.
it comes down
Choices.
to choices. Uh, so I
That's
guess
why this
like
new Pinocchio movie is so bad. They've got a new Pinocchio movie, right? I haven't watched it, but I looked at the script, I looked at the summary, what they've done, and what's very interesting about this character, people be moaning about these Disney remakes, and the public conversation. They always like do this old switcheroo where they try and make it as if people are angry about appearances or what have you, and oh, it's these dreaded istophobes. They're not happy that Tinkerbell is blue now or whatever the fuck, right? Uh, but you look at what they've done with the actual movie, what they've done to Pinocchio. For example, the scene in which his nose grows, right? He tells lies and this monstrosity appears before him. And, you know, this is great because kids are prone to making things up, but it's important for kids to understand that there are consequences to fucking with the fabric of reality, right? In the new Pinocchio movie, what happens is the nose, he like tells a tiny little sort of like half lie. The nose grows and Jiminy Cricket uses it to reach the lock and open the door. So the lesson learned there is that it's okay to tell little lies once in a while. That could even be great. You know what I mean? He
mhm.
doesn't run off with the fox because he basically, you know, went against his father's wishes and was just hypnotized by the allure of fame and fortune. He goes off with the fox because he goes to school and the school kicks him out for being a puppet, you know? So it's not his fault. Throughout the film, I went through all this. Any point in the original where Pinocchio has a choice to make, makes a choice, it's a bad choice, he suffers the consequences. All of those have been removed from the new movie.
Mm.
So all of the agency of the individual has been removed, and he's just like a kind of a guy on a ferry go around who's like forced into these situations and then manages to, you know, somehow narrowly escape them or what have you. It's this weird thing they're doing, this infantilization of culture, this removal of agency, the removal of choice. You've got people running around like what's that guy, that Sam Palace or whatever, the fellow who's who thinks nobody has any free will at all, but at the same time thinks that people getting with dead children in their basement is way more preferable than orange TV hosts, but all that sort of thing.
So, so
It's a
it's like
fucking funny time. It's a funny time when people are in every aspect of our culture arguing uh, against the agency and the sovereignty of the individual, whilst at the same time somehow doing the exact opposite.
so. I remember listening to the Ask Akira podcast, the epic podcast. Absolutely love those Ask Akira sessions. And you mentioned that podcast. Like every 7 years, this cycle occurs in culture where we go from this light, happy, hippie kind of movement to this more dark and kind of gloomer doomer type of movement. Is this kind of what you're
Mm.
talking about here with this infantilization of culture?
That's a larger thing because they've been doing that for decades and decades. So you have there's everything cycles. You have 100-year ones. You have like 32-year ones. You have the 7-year one is the observable punk to hippie, you know, positive nihilism to the opposite of that, I guess, from a kind of earthbound, pedestrian, visceral, reality-based mode of thinking to a sci-fi, heaven-bound one, which we're currently swinging out of the peak of that mini dark age, which was 2020, which I said in 2016, 2017, I was saying 2020 people will be dressed in black out in the streets setting fire to things. And
Mhm.
lo and behold, they came right to my fucking house dressed in black, setting fire to my fucking like next door neighbors. Um, so that happened. And we're now maneuvering into the next psychedelic thing. So we're going from what you might consider, say, speed, cocaine, to MDMA, mushrooms type acid situation, right? And what's interesting is how very viscerally this is obvious in all aspects of culture. Just this year, the AI art starts popping off. And
Yeah.
the AI art is uniformly sinister and dark and kind of evil, but also it has this psychedelic aspect to it. So it's kind of like this like monster that's Lovecraftian fucking swamp creature coming out of the depths into this sort of psychedelic world, being born from horror and darkness and going into this like multicolor aspect.
Have you gotten a
What do
chance
you
to
see
play
there?
around with any of that? Like, so being a deep learning kind of person myself, and data scientist, AI person, uh,
Of course.
I'm fascinated by the stuff that's happening with these generative art models. Have you got a chance to play around with any
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them
yeah,
yourself?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been paying attention to this stuff for forever. And when the open betas were happening a few months ago, whatever it was, 6 months ago, whatever it was, I was playing with those.
Mhm.
I've never been able to, but like I was saying, and I've had some people do not like my take on this, and other people seem to understand. But I have not yet seen anything that was not somehow tinged with some kind of horror slash evil.
Hmm.
Uh, Coming out of those specific, there's the Dali and the mid journey ones.
Midjourney,
So I
yeah,
play with
that's
those,
one.
and then some of the more basic ones as well. I played with a lot of the basic ones for like a long time. They all kind of seem a bit evil, no matter what they're drawing. There's something kind of ugly and wrong in there, and I still can't work out exactly why that is. Whether it is the lack of understanding of what it is that is being put together that leads to these tiny little, it's like the thing that red letter media says about, you don't know, you don't see it but your brain does type thing. There's
Mhm.
certain things that we understand on subconscious levels or unconscious levels, and it's like the uncanny valley thing, right?
Right.
You know that thing when you have like
Yeah.
the robot face or what have you, and it's almost perfect, but there's something slightly wrong with it, and that disgusts us.
Yeah.
That disgusts us on this fundamental visceral level, like cockroaches do. We fucking hate cockroaches. I'm upstairs yesterday, and little lizards go running around the house, right? These little lizards, like this big, and they go cheep cheep cheep, and they run around. A fucking cockroach appeared in the place a lizard normally is. They're basically the same size. Fuck the cockroach. I will fucking murder you and your entire family. You are gone. I'll fucking, you know what I mean? Like the visceral human reaction to certain things, and there's a reason for that. The evolutionary biological sort of argument for, cockroaches versus lizards is cockroaches have fucking wiped out loads of us by carrying diseases. Duh. So we just know that on an inherent level. So what's interesting is on an inherent level, we know to be very, very fearful and wary of things that look just like humans and look just like the creation of humans, but are not humans and are not the direct creation of humans. And that's interesting because we go, okay, well, in our past that we're aware of, there hasn't been a time where we needed to be wary of beings that looked exactly like humans, but were not humans. And we didn't have to be wary of the creation of humans that looked exactly like the creation of humans, but was not the direct creation of humans. So then you go, well, that could be, I guess, that things happened before and then we don't know about them because society completely collapsed and we rebuilt. Or maybe we can intuit these things going forwards as well. Maybe the
Mhm.
kind of our perception of time as being beads on a string that only goes in one direction. Maybe we have more access to uh, the concept and the truth of an existence outside of that, an awareness of an existence outside of that, where rather than beads on a string going in one direction, time is in fact a kind of soil that you grow universes in. And that this distrust we have of some of these robots and some of this creation, and some people are very attuned to this, and I know I am, but I many other people are, and you show them Some people, you can show them AI art versus human art, and they don't know which is which, and they don't even know they're doing this experiment, but they go, that one's a bit evil, and there's something off with that one.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
So this is interesting. This is interesting to me.
Do you think that says something about us as humans, though? Because the data that we use to train it, it's scraped from the internet. It's scraped from things that it's already seen that's been on the internet, and we're essentially matching labels and captions, and it goes through some fancy model, and we're capturing what we as humans know as art, and finding some way to generate that. What do you think that has to say about us?
Well, you have to think what art is, what is art, and what's happening when art is created, and what's happening when you witness art, and what's going on there. And one way of thinking about art is that, certainly this is very much applicable to music. You could say that music is a way of describing the indescribable, right? It is an encounter with truth, with the capital T, truth, right? Which cannot be described, but only experienced. So music is the sound of that, and art is a conduit, is a portal to a contact with that. It's not even the full. It's a little bit of it, but the little bit of it that is incalculably larger than what we can do, say, with description. So AI art is taking that and breaking it down to descriptions, right? To human trigger descriptions, like word clouds and so on and so forth, linking to these images. So in a way, it is it's kind of the inverse of that. However, in doing that, you can see how there's the beginning of a new kind of language there, a potential. Like I was saying, I'm not fundamentally against this at all. I'm just interested that at its current stage, where it's at currently, there's something off with it in what it's creating. What it could well be is the beginning of the unfinished language of which Terence McKenna speaks. So back to the idea that like words are very, very, very crude approximations of what we're trying to do with them or what we're trying to put across.
Yeah.
Right. And they really kind of get in the way. And spoken, they're so much faster than they are written, but it's still this Neanderthal thing in the context of what we know is what we have a feeling is there, what we've had these little intonations of via our contact with the divine, via things like music and certain experiences and what have you, right? So these AI art creation forms could be a beginning of a new way of communicating, a new kind of language that summons up much broader and larger, and then also more specific ideas through those kinds of visuals, particularly when you get them moving and you get them singing and harmonizing and things of that nature. So that's what that could be.
I like that point about language, because, for example, with DALL-E or any of these generative models, you have to articulate what it is that you're saying so precisely in such a way to generate, an image that's halfway meaningful. Like I tried to use DALL-E. I had this idea that I would take Naval Ravikant's tweets and make art from his tweets, but all the model ended up spitting out was images that were just incomprehensible text, almost like word art type of images. So there's some, I guess, creativity that has to go into how you articulate the input to this model.
There's a huge amount of creativity, and there's also got to be an awareness of what the models are using. I think you've probably seen those stories about like this weird woman that I think she's called Loom or something, or Lim.
Yeah.
It keeps drawing this terrifying woman. It keeps drawing this ghastly creature. There's like this weird ghost in the machine of this lady that keeps appearing because it's cross-referencing and building on top of. And of course, the other issue is that they've scraped a lot of images, but not that many.
Yeah.
And then you're building on top of that, on top of that, on top of that. But it's always going to be those basics are always going to be in there, and whatever errors were in there, and also the fact that they're now trying to correct for bias, and that's just always going to create more problems that it solves, and that's going to lead to all these issues. So it has fucking huge amounts of problems. It's very early in what it is, but what it is an intonation of a potentiality for a new form of communication, just on a basic level of where it might be in a few years, wherein rather than searching for the perfect meme to articulate how you're feeling right now, you dictate the perfect meme to how you're feeling right now. I mean, it certainly could be potentially a much more expressive emoji format than the existing emoji format.
What are your thoughts about using it as simply just as a tool to help augment human creativity? Do you think it has a place there? There's actually some people in the deep learning community that do generative music, AI based kind of music. Do you think you would ever play around with anything like that? Or I guess
I have been for
yeah,
years. I've been
yeah,
playing around with AI music stuff for years and years and years. Was it like 3 or 4 years ago that a lot came out all at once? There was a lot of things all happened all at once. There was programs that could generate melodies from just give them a key or give them a chord. There was things that you could play along with chords. Suddenly there were things that would generate whole songs. Suddenly there were things that generate orchestra parts. There were things that would mix for you, that would copy the sound of an existing record and apply that to your record and so on. There's fucking tons of stuff in music and has been for a while. And I've been experimenting with all that all the way along. And there's always, all of these things are tools, and man has always used tools, and all those tools have always had the potential for good and evil.
that's right.
However you want to put it. The first monkey picked up the first rock. You could draw a smiley face on the cave wall. You could draw a deer and use it to help your people visualize the hunt, or you could fucking cave in the head of the guy who's king right now and fucking take that bitch over. And that's your first bit of technology. Then you get clothes and so on. You know what I mean? But humans, as John Vervaeke says so succinctly, are natural born cyborgs, always have been, always will be. We will continue to do this forever. And everything we bring into ourselves always has the same potentiality of dark and light, just like fucking everything. And that seems to be a fundamental necessity of this existence.
I want to talk a little bit about technology, but first of all, shout out to John Vervaeke. If you guys are curious, I've got an interview with him. Go check that out. The interview, I was inspired to do it because I heard him on Akira the Don. Akira the Don would be like just playing his lectures over some lo-fi beats. This is back in like 2020, 2021 when I was watching this. So definitely tune into that episode. He was on Lex Friedman's podcast recently. So if you want to compare and contrast both of our styles, let me know what you're thinking. Well, let's talk about psychotechnology and like what is a psychotechnology? How is Meaningwave a psychotechnology?
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. So what's the technology? Let's say this is the technology. I put this in my hand, I press a button, and the air conditioning switches off. Or at least, it did work this time. No, it half worked. But anyway, so this is me wrapping my hand around this thing. This augments me. This means that Akira the Don is a super fucking creature, is now a fucking cyborg, superhuman. Beep. A psychotechnology is something that wraps around your mind, like this is around my hand, and increases the potentiality and possibilities of what the mind can do. You could think of language as a psychotechnology. If you have a language, that means you can describe things that are going around, communicate that to other people, organize things, organize your thoughts, and all sorts. It's insane what language is. It's insane to think that there was a point where there wasn't language. But then it's insane to think, as Frank Herbert said in one of those Dune books, many degrees of sight, many degrees of blindness. What senses do we lack that we cannot see another world all around us? We are very early in all of this, and it is insane to think what is out there and what we will be doing. But anyway, that's a psychotechnology. That's something that, you wrap around your mind to increase the potential power of mind. Meaningwave appears to be a psychotechnology because by fusing ideas, philosophy, knowledge, all of these things with the wisdom of the ages, fusing that with music seems to have the effect of people being able to imbue that information way quicker and with way more permanence than by reading a book, by listening to a speech, by going to school even. I have people writing to me saying that they did college courses on things and they could never get the ideas to stick. And then they happened upon a song which had it in it. It was like a fucking 3-minute song, and now they get it, and they were able to learn it and understand it and incorporate it into their being. And here's the thing, wisdom is only wisdom once it is embodied and enacted. Otherwise, it's just knowledge, and you might forget that shit. You put that in an Evernote, lose the fucking password, it's gone.
Yeah.
Fuck. You know what I mean? And that's an issue we have right now, which is part of the technological thing, which is we do so much of our outsourcing of our wisdom and of our knowledge. You know, we put things in Evernote, we put things in Google Docs, and we don't remember phone numbers, and we don't remember even concepts. And we'll listen to a podcast and go, "Yeah, that's fucking awesome. That's I understand that. That makes sense." And then if we do not embody that in our lives in some way and find a way to make that a part of what we are and what we do, we forget it. And then we hear someone else say it on a podcast 3 years later and go, "Oh yeah, this is cool. I like this," and just keep fucking doing that forever, unless you integrate it somehow. And what Meaningwave seems to do, the combining it with music and rhythm and all that stuff, seems to have the effect of the individual being able to imbue it and keep it there.
Yeah, the power of music is crazy. Like I've got a 2-year-old son who's he loves music. Like he's sing along to songs, he's dancing to songs, he's like able to memorize these things so quickly. And I think part of the reason he was able to, he speaks really clearly as a 2-year-old. Like he's articulating full on sentences and stuff like that. And I think a lot of that has to do with him just listening to a lot of music and just getting into music. But I feel like music also, like you mentioned, it's a psychotechnology. It has the power of shaping someone's identity. It can influence behaviors. And like I know it did for me. Like, I grew up in the hood. I grew up with both punk rock kids and hood gangster kids. And, there's people I've witnessed, even like my own cousins who, many of which are in jail. The music they listened to shaped their identity. And I wonder how their life would have turned out had they have more variety or listened to something else. I want to see what your thoughts on that were.
Well, you see that similar thing. People I grew up around the sorts of music, and like you gravitating towards the more gangster rock types, or the people who are gravitating towards the more straight edge types, and like that would directly affect the choices they made with regards to very important things like, am I going to go get fucking drunk and get in a car crash today? Like shit like that. Like music's mad powerful on a cultural level, aside from the thing we were talking about using it to like drill in specific messages, but like driving in larger scale cultural identity messages and group affiliation messages and sort of like general fucking vibe messages. Am I angry? Am I happy? If I'm listening to a certain kind of music all the time and that's who I am, depending on the kind of music, that will affect my general fucking mood in general. Am I walking around like with a fucking smile on my face, or am I walking around smiling at people, or whatever the fuck? Like all of that is within it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely seen that happen to me with Meaningwave, specifically with that Naval album, the How to Get Rich Volume One, that fundamentally like changed the way I view the world. It like shook me to my core, and it made me realize, like, holy shit, dude! Like I'm looking at the world in a non-useful manner.
Yeah, that's it. That's the fucking thing. But most people never even get to have that question, or have gotten to. Like, is this mode with which I'm interfacing with reality, whatever that may be, is it the most optimal interfacing? There's like, your religion isn't. This is one of Scott Adams's things that he talks about a lot. But is my choice of interface the one that's going to lead to the most optimal results for my life? So if I'm choosing a religion, or if I'm an atheist, or if I'm a very political, whatever it is, whichever mode I'm choosing, is it leading to the best output end result of an existence? This goes what I was saying about earlier, about whether you choose to focus on the horrors of contemporary existence or the fucking miracles of contemporary existence. One of those leads to a better life. So if you want to have a good life, if you want your family to have a good life, there are choices you can make with regards to the user interface that you're using to interface with fucking reality that will lead to completely different results. But like, again, this is to do with, being intentional and deciding who you are, deciding what has meaning to you, deciding what you're going to give your energy to. These are all choices you get to make. And some people don't even realize the question has been asked. This is, I think about this thing a lot, which was Carl Jung's. What was his thing on it? The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, it will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
The devil will find work for idle hands to do. All of this. And, and there's much talk about the modern world and the horrors of the modern world and the brainwashing. Boomers were the most brainwashed generation of all time. They all had this fucking box in their house that told them they were the greatest thing that ever lived and whispered them to sleep at night and said, buy this thing. think this thing. There's boom. No one had fucking brainwashed people like boomers got brainwashed. You know what I mean? It's fucking crazy what was done to that generation. And people say like now is even worse. But actually now people, there's more choice and there are more opportunities to escape and there are more opportunities to go, do you know what? If someone's going to wash my brain, it could be me, might as well be me. You know, wash your own fucking brain. And you can do that. You can choose what the inputs are. You can choose what podcasts you listen to, what music you listen to, what you eat, where you go. You can choose that. The sum of you being the sum of the people, the 5 people around you, right? You can choose one of those to be fucking Jocko Willink or fucking Marcus Aurelius or whoever it is. You can, that's crazy. People couldn't do that in the past. If you wanted one of the 5 people closest to you to be Marcus fucking Aurelius, you had to live 2,000 years ago and be in the fucking palace.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can literally do that. You can be Bob from Scunthorpe and you can go, I'm just going to fucking have meditations playing all day, every fucking day. And that's what's going to influence me.
Yeah. And that is something I did for a long while. I mean, because I didn't grow up with any mentors. Like, I didn't have mentors in my personal life when I was young, didn't have mentors professionally kind of coming up in my career. And I had to find my own way along the way. And you've kind of been like a meta mentor of sorts for me over the last few years, just introducing me to ideas and philosophies and philosophers and people behind them that, these ideas, these concepts have radically shaped my belief system and perception in ways that I can't even begin to articulate. But a lot of it was I had to go to war, but I had to go to war with myself, which is like the most I can't even find the right word. The most fearsome enemy, the most brutal enemy is like yourself.
And that's the one that's going to be going on forever.
Yeah.
When that war is done, that is when you die.
Yeah.
That is the battle you'll be fighting your entire life. And that is good to know. Because again, it's something that some people never realize. They never realize that's what they were doing all along. And all of everything they thought that was against them, everything they thought that was going wrong for them, everything they thought that was sabotaging them or putting them down, it was all in them all along. It's an amazing thing to witness. And again, I think, go back to what they did to boomers. And what I was saying earlier about the Pinocchio thing, this mimetic weapon of taking away the self-responsibility of the individual, which was really done to that generation. And they're really, really trying to do it to every generation, but it doesn't seem to be as effective now. But that's the worst thing you can do to someone, is remove them of their self-responsibility, or even the concept that they have self-responsibility, removing from them their power to change their world and change their life, which is the power that everybody has. Everybody has access to that. No matter where you are or what has happened to you, you have the power to decide how you're going to react to whatever comes your way. It's the ultimate power. It's an amazing thing. And it's this evil, nasty, rotten thing they're doing to people now, telling them they don't have this, telling them that it's everybody else's fault. You're fine the way you are. Oh, yeah. Just love yourself as you are, and everyone else needs to change. And all this it's such an evil thing to do to people.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But as I was saying, the glory of now is that the tools with which to combat these demons are more widespread than they have ever been.
You mentioned talk about the box and how boomers were the most brainwashed generation. Have you heard that song by Lupe Fiasco? I think it was on the first Food and Liquor. It's called The Instrumental. He's like, he just sits and watches the people in the boxes. Everything he sees, he absorbs and adopts it. He mimics and he mocks it. The same shit, man.
I probably heard that at the time. I remember the blog rap era. Lupe was supposed to be like the fucking biggest to ever do it.
I love this shit, man. Yeah,
Lupe was cool. This was, I remember one of the first rap songs I really loved was Television, the Drug of the Nation by Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy. It was the same thing, that was talking about that then. It was, television, the drug of the nation, breeding ignorance and feeding radiation. That was it. That was Michael Franti, who went on to form Spearhead.
Oh, shit. That's, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that was dope. But I mean, that was the thing. So that was the That's why I did that Marshall McLuhan record, and there will be more Marshall McLuhan, because Marshall McLuhan is very good at talking about this, and he's what television really was, what it was doing, how it worked. Uh, it's very interesting with say television and with mediums in general. The new medium. So now we're going into this. We're getting deep into the internet now. It's been around for a couple of decades. We're starting to see things now being built for the internet. Whereas previously, what was happening was the new medium is the content of the new medium is always the previous medium. So the content of movies was books or plays. The content of TV was movies. And the content of the internet was everything. Everything. So we had this period of time in which it seemed that there was little innovation in previous cultural stuff. There were arguments that there'd been no significant musical genre created since hip hop, for example. You had the disco, then hip hop, then kind of stopped. That there was nothing new invented after the internet because everyone was so busy putting everything into the internet, getting everything in there. And like, you think about how the original websites would be recreations of magazines. The first version of an online encyclopedia was just like a book, in a computer with maybe a moving picture or whatever. So you have decades of kind of importing the previous world into the new medium, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing that until the new medium is full, until the new medium cannot take it anymore. And until then, you start creating things that can only exist and could only have ever existed as part of that new medium. And then there will be another medium, and then it will keep going. So we're kind of starting to get to that point now where things are starting to be created that could not have existed in anything else. And that's why this happened in music production. So everything in music production would be a recreation of a music studio, a mixing board, a compressor, an EQ rack, and they would all look exactly the same. Just in the past few years, you're finally starting to have things be created that could only exist within computers. And they said some of these things that contain some of these AI things and so on and so forth. And so we're just at that point.
So what's this next new thing going to look like?
Yeah, well, this is what we're going to see. This is what we're going to find out. And we're at this point now, which I thought about for like decades, and we're now in. Who was that? I remember Alan Moore talking about this in the context of, he would call it steam. So the idea of the amount of time between, say, the invention of that rock I was talking about, that first bit of technology, then the amount of time you get to like Rome and the baths of Rome, right? The amount of time it takes to create the same amount of stuff. You basically get to a situation whereby I think it was 1970. In 1970, more was created in that year than in that decade. Sorry, in the 70s. So more human information was generated in the 70s than in the history of humanity, and it keeps dividing like this, right? And charting that on a graph, you saw that by 2015, you would get to the point where more human information would be being created in a minute than in the history of humanity. And then it veers up, and then it starts getting to a point where it becomes like a second, which we're in now. So you go from a fluid culture that is observable, like a river, to something that starts bubbling and fizzing, and then it becomes steam. And once it's steam, something could be created right now that alters humanity forever, that makes humanity unrecognizable almost instantly. And we're at that point now. We are now in steam time. We're in the point that like people have thought about and theorized about for thousands of years. We are in that moment. And in that moment, it could be happening right now. Some kid in Flangoid could be putting something together that is unleashed upon the world tomorrow and changes everything. You think about the internet, right? That was like, you remember when those electric e-scooters started appearing in cities?
Yeah.
Right? It was like no one was consulted. We all just woke up one day and there were e-scooters. I went, oh, how's this work? You stick a thing and oh, fuck it out. We fucking riding along and people are fucking falling in front of buses and it's fucking crazy. These things are piling up all over the place. Fucking crackheads, industrious crackheads are working out how to like pull them apart and stick them together so they can make weird little cars and sort of transport crack around and all this. You know, there was the internet. They did that. They've just started appearing here where I'm in Mexico. Those e-scooters just fucking appeared last week, randomly. But they dropped the internet on us. No one was consulted. You know what I mean? There wasn't a fucking manual. There was no like pre-testing. This thing was not fucking FDA approved. You know what I mean? They just fucking dumped the internet on us like a nuke and said, let's see what happens now. What now? But then fucking, you know, fucking 10 years later, fucking people are running around with weird surgery faces like that. You go to a beach now, it's unrecognizable from, like, you go to a beach now, just fucking girls running around like that everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, the internet changed so many fucking things and was such a weird, unannounced experiment. But anyway, that was done, and that was in the just before Steam period thing. So now we're at the stage where fucking these nukes are going off all over the place. We might not have noticed yet, but we're about to. And anyway, whatever that, what with regards to your question of what's next is more impactful than the internet, and it's coming.
So let's talk about the internet real quick. I was having this thought experiment.
Oh, and it's 4D. But aside from it, so one thing, so it's unavoidable. At least the internet is sort of over there, and you can maybe turn it off and you can walk in the other direction. But the next thing is omnipresent. That's the nature of the next thing.
Yeah,
is 360 degrees.
There's the show on Amazon Amazon Prime show called I think it's called The Feed, and that's like literally what I think the metaverse is going to look like. It's very, very compelling. But the internet, man, and we talk about how.
So tell me about that, because I haven't seen that. So what do you think the internet? What's this idea of what the
this is like it's the actual metaverse. So in the show, it's called The Feed. They've got essentially like a neural link. Everyone has like a neural link thing implanted at birth, and you know at any moment you can like kind of switch out from the real world, go into the metaverse and hang out with a group of your friends, right? And now they've got these people who are like feed junkies around, and all day long they're just like eyes rolled up and they're just like hanging out in the metaverse with their friends, doing metaverse drugs and things like that. It's a very, very interesting show. Highly recommend checking it out. But
yeah, it basically sounds like all 80s comics.
Yeah,
that was like the story of 80s comics, which interests me because it's like what we're creating. It seems that I remember some people telling me this once. I had some scientists who were fans of my music and would write me weird like group letters in PDFs saying, hey, this is what's going on with the bees right now, and this is what's going on with this. And one time they wrote to me and they said, hey, you creative people, you artists, you have a great responsibility, because as scientific types, we're not necessarily the sort of people who create ideas, but we see ideas that you create and then we make them real. So you guys should be careful about what it is you're creating, what you're putting out there. And it dawned on me that the human creation, fiction, with regards to the fictional creations of gadgetry and worlds and imagining the future, had been uniformly dystopian and cyberpunk and horrible for decades, right? It was this Terminator, Matrix, Blade Runner, Snow Crash type thing. Everything had some, it was like one big meta story. That even to the point where, you know, you'd have conspiracy theories, that the great conspiracy that the Matrix is the sequel to Terminator. Yeah, Terminator is the prequel to Matrix, and supposedly they were written by the same person who envisaged this whole story, and then she was ripped off for those little mini films. But the point being is this grand story that we've been telling ourselves, the mythology we've been telling our culture for the past 40, 50 years, 50, 60 years, has been this dystopian horror story that leads to what you were just talking about, right? Junkie Neuralink, like cracked out horror future. That's the story. And it's interesting. So that's what we've been going along with. That's the story we've been creating for ourselves, and it's starting to come true. Oh shit. Story is very powerful. We really do just fucking create, you know, we do think our reality. And you do that on an individual level, but you also do that on a societal level, right? So if that's true, and it's true, we can observe it to be true, maybe we need to start thinking up a better future. And maybe we should start maybe investing our time into stories that have better outcomes for us and our families, because we really are at this crossroad. We are really are at a juncture upon which we could walk down one corridor and go into eternal fucking damnation, hell, slavery, and the very worst aspects of 1984 and Harrison Bergeron and all of those stories. But at the same time, just over there is like fucking Star Trek Next Generation, just like that door, right? So this is a very, very important time for us as a species, as a being, and we should be paying attention to these things.
So I guess, like, on an individual level, what type of choices do we need to make so that collectively we don't, we go in the right direction of that Star Trek type of direction?
Well, it goes into what we was talking about at the very beginning, right? So, what are you gonna give your energy to, the dark or the light? Are you gonna focus on what you don't like? Are you gonna focus on the horror? Are you gonna make that? Is that, a lot of the ugliness of the culture war stuff? You wouldn't know it existed if people weren't tweeting it around all day, and this is on both sides. So the only time I ever see a swastika is when like anti-fascist people post pictures of swastikas that have supposedly been painted somewhere or something like that, or like they've literally got them in their own logos but they've got a cross over it, but it's like that's still the fucking logo. So you're posting the logo, it's got a cross over it, but it's posting the logo. The only time you see that stuff is when they're pushing it around. Similarly, the people on the other side, all the horror, the stuff that they object to, that they're constantly pushing around and essentially promoting. Whereas the things that they claim they wish existed in the world, they do not promote these things. They do not post them on their timelines for the most part. You know what I mean? They're not posting amazing art. They're complaining about modern art being shit, but they're not filling their feeds with the glorious art that they say they wish existed. Some people are, obviously, but so this is the thing. It's more a case of the old, like, be the change you want to see. It's more the case of like embody that which you claim to wish existed. It's the, rather than fucking trying to change the world, change yourself. It's the walk the walk. It's these fucking ancient ideas. It's the stuff that Marcus Aurelius talked about. It's the stuff that the fucking Mesopotamians talked about. It's the stuff that's the seed in our oldest texts. And it is as true today as it ever was. It's like only you can save mankind. You must be it. And what you have to do is be it to 100% of its potentiality within you. And if you're not doing that, you're fucking up the whole universe. You're fucking up the cosmos, because you're here for a fucking reason and you're supposed to do something. And if you're not doing it, you're fucking it all up and you're a dead pixel. You can have the greatest fucking display. You can have the fucking $10,000 Mac display, but if there is one dead pixel that is not doing its job, that fucks up the whole movie for everybody. Do not be that dead pixel.
No, absolutely love it, man.
Supposed to do. And that's it. That's what you do. That's the thing.
It's been a constant struggle for me throughout my life, like being the biggest thing in my own way. Like this is the source of all my struggle, like in here. Like how do we deal with that? Right? Like, I know we've been kind of talking about it, but
you deal with that. That's what you do. You deal with that. You deal with, how do I deal with that? You deal with that. That's what you do. And you know how to do that as well. Everybody knows what they have to do, really. Really, you sit down, you think about it, and you know what you need to do. You go, okay, what do I need to do? Well, like, my life's a fucking mess. Like, what are the things I need to do? You know what you need to do. It does come to you. It's the doing it. But it's not just the doing it. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately as well. So you start going to the gym or whatever, right? You start getting into that kind of discipline mode. It's like, okay, I'm going to the gym. And then you're kind of pushing yourself through, and it's like, oh, fucking, you're doing the thing that's hard to do. You're trying to just get to the other side of it. You're like, oh, get to the other side of it. That's not, but it's not that. It's like, you don't just get through it. Do it. Don't just get through it. Do it. Lean into it. Experience it. Feel it. See what it really is. Really be a part of it, no matter how much it sucks and no matter how much it hurts. And that's when you have the real results. That's when you have the real transformative experiences. That's when you fucking see God. Is when you really, and that's the be here now thing. That's the exist in the moment thing. All of the sadness, the anguish, the anxiety, which they're constantly fucking going on about these days, that all exists outside of this moment. That's when you're worrying about the future, or you're lamenting the past. In this moment, there is no suffering, even if it hurts, because full-blown 100% awareness of what is happening right now is just pure experience and pure awareness. And that is what you are. So the deeper into the moment you can push yourself, and pain can do that. Pain's great. Pain can help you get right into this moment right now. The deeper you are into this moment, the more alive you are, the more useful you are, the more powerful you are. And if you can string those moments together like fucking super combos in a fucking arcade game, like your life is just one big fucking super punch, like power move. You know what I mean? And that's at the end, and that's what the zone thing is. You know, that's being in the fucking moment and being fully cognizant and fully aware and being fucking able to receive all of the powers and all of the blessings and all of that which exists. To have that and then do that in the next and chain those moments together. Boom, boom, boom. How many can you do? How long can you keep that up? Because the more you do that, the more powerful it gets and the more intense it gets and the more useful and powerful and glorious the existence. And some of that will hurt. There will be suffering in some of that. There'll be pain in some of that. Horrible things happen to people. Some good friends of mine, my friend, his wife died today.
Ooh,
and his reaction to she's 40. They're very young. They've got 3 children. And the way he's been dealing with it, and she was dealing with it, and the children are dealing with it, is one of the most incredible things I've ever witnessed. With such grace and acceptance, no wallowing, no misery, like, oh fuck, no more, why me? Just a complete, this is what it is, and we will deal with it. And now we're going to go forward, and we're going to make this life beautiful for her. Just the whole time, it's been incredible to witness. And so that is it. Like, not running away from it. Lean into it. Don't just get through. Be in it. Whether it's the bits that suck, the horror, the misery, the glory, the beauty, the wonder, all of it. Like the truth. As we were talking about music, an intonation, an encounter with truth that cannot be described, only experienced. And that's what you do, right?
Absolutely love it, man. That's beautiful. Beautifully put. Damn. It just like, 1 + 1 is 2, right? If you can get through doing things that you hate to do, on the other side is greatness, right? And this is
and the acceptance, and the acceptance. Some people spend so much of their fucking lives trying to get away from suffering and pain and dampen it. And that's what drugs are for, and that's what alcohol is often used for, and government drugs, TV. So much. It's the not accepting, because some things you don't want to accept because they're hard or what have you. But like, that's where the beauty is, and that's where the truth of life is. The point of life is, the purpose of life is, and the meaning of life is in those things that you're trying to avoid. That's where everything you really need, and everything that's going to help you and help your brothers and sisters and help you be that light in the world, which is necessary to create that fucking grand picture that we all have our part in creating. And without any of us, like I was saying, if one of us doesn't do it, that fucks it. We all have a fucking role, and it's as important as everyone else's.
Yeah, we owe it not only to ourselves, but like to everyone, dude. You have choices. You be your potential worst self or your potential best self. So by not being your potential best self, you're literally letting all of existence down.
You are letting all of existence down, and you're also making shit difficult for you. My friend, like, he could have got drunk when he found out about his wife. He could have gone into that. He could have led into that. Instead, he got really into fucking boxing. He made himself fucking strong. He wasn't always strong. He was like, used to drink loads of booze, go like fucking indie disco. Like, he turned himself into the man that was required. He
Mm.
just did that. He just turned himself into the man that was required to deal with that situation for his family at that moment. And that was the obvious. You said, yeah, it's obvious, but it's not as obvious because so many people don't do that. And if you could do that from the off, like imagine if that's what, if that was the default position, that was the default idea, like turn yourself into the kind of person who can deal with what life is really going to bring. You know, be that dependable person, be that actualized fucking on, paying attention, aware of what the fuck is going on, acting in the interests of others, not just fucking selfishly doing whatever you want to fucking do because you're chasing fucking vague pleasures. Like, anyway.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Absolutely love it. You know, we're both fathers to young kids. I think Hercules is about 10 by this point, or almost 10, near 10.
9 años.
9. And my
Hercules
kids,
tienes 9 años. Sí.
my kids, too. What, I guess, what piece of, parenting advice have you got for me? What can I do to help my son Jagad kind of grow up into this type of person that you're talking about?
Did she say his name was
Jagad. Jagad, yeah.
God? That's
Yeah,
dope.
Jagad. So there's a couple of definitions for that word. One of them, Jagad, like the colloquial modern alternative, is like just an innovative hack solution to a problem. So a non-obvious solution to a obvious problem is what that means. But there's like the I'm sick is that's like my religion, and the in the religious turn of it is someone who's just existed beyond all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was something like that. That's sick.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Sick. I've been trying to exercise sick from my vocabulary. You know what I mean? And it just popped out. I need a word for sick that is not sick. It's really anyway. Yeah, I started really paying attention to my vocabulary some years ago, and then you realize how much of it is self-destructive. Walking
You
around
used to go around
damning
damning,
everything,
damning
right?
everything.
Just
Yeah.
fucking damning everything. Do you know what damning means? So you look at what that fucking means, what that is.
Yeah.
You're doing to everything. Yeah, damning. So I switched damn for bless. So
Yeah.
that's good. So now I'm blessing everything. But yes, it's sick. There's like, sick.
Just
Like that's a good word, and it feels good coming out your face. But it's also a horrible thing to say about something that is that you think is actually wonderful in a certain way. So we need a word for sick. Anyway, with regards to your son, I'm pretty sure you're already doing great things. You gave him a great name. You gave him a powerful name. That's rule number one. You want to give him a powerful name to live up to. You know what I mean? And you want to love them. You know what I mean? You want to love them and pay attention to them, right? These are the fucking really basic shit, but a lot of
yeah.
people don't do it. Yo, they're fucking sending their kids off to institutions or giving them to other people that they don't even know to fucking raise and look after and stick them in a room full of other little kids and put a Disney movie on and what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Love them, be with them as much as fucking possible. Like, spend as much time as possible with them. Pay attention to them when they're talking to you. Listen to what they're saying. Don't talk to them like they're fucking retards. Talk to them like fucking the gods that they are. There's things that kids understand that grown-ups have forgotten. You know what I mean? So like you should be bearing that shit in mind. I'm sure you are. I'm sure
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like the most important thing is like you are fucking God in their eyes, and they will just fucking copy you, and they will look up to you, and like whatever you are, that's what they will want to be. You know, and so that's why it's more important now than ever that you actualize your motherfucking self. And
Yeah.
that was the wonderful gift my son gave me. Because as soon as he came along, I fucking just knew, oh shit, stop fucking, there's no time to fuck around. No more fucking around. You've got to become that thing that exists within the marble. You know what I mean? You've got to become that fucking statue of David that exists within the marble. You've got to stop. There's just no more fucking around. You know what I mean?
That's I'm glad I had him when I did, because just in terms of mentally who I was, I don't think it would have been the best version of myself. I mean, I'm kind of old. I turned 40 in May. I think you and I have the same birthday, May 17th or 16, 17, 16. Yeah.
16.
My kids May 8th. So my wife is May 21st. We're all in the same little bunch there. But I think any other time in my early 30s, I don't think I would have been able to have been a good father.
Yeah, you would though.
Yeah.
Because you would.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You do, like, human beings have this amazing capacity for rising to the occasion,
Yeah.
and for adapting to new paradigms. I always had the idea that, well, not idea, were there the zombie apocalypse tomorrow, we'd have like reformed society, and you'd have your position in it. You'd worked out what you were going to do by Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We move out quick. So had that happened at another point in your life, you would have fucking adapted and reacted. The
Yeah.
idea that you would have been a fuck off is a disservice to your true nature, because your true nature, which makes itself known through everything you do, uh, will always do that and always would have done that. I spent a good, I did a lot of fucking stupid rockstar cliche shit when I was young, but had I had a child at that point, I would have risen to being a father,
Yeah.
because that's the fucking reason. That's, you know, that's the call. That's the fucking bat signal. So a man, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking from the perspective of like I wasn't exposed to some of these ideas, like for example the stuff that you're presenting through Meaningwave. But at the end of the day, I think that those great lessons that these teachers are teaching us, like these philosophers and thinkers that you present through Meaningwave, like that stuff is do you think that stuff, those ideas, those concepts that they're sharing, are they already within us, or
Yes, there
yeah.
they are. That's why they persisted. They're all. It's like the archetypal uh, messages within our mythology that Joseph Campbell articulated very well. And some of my favorite Peterson stuff was talking about that stuff. It's like these stories that we keep telling over and over and over, and always have. And we tell them because they're true. We tell them because they contain the truth, and that is why you can do a new perverse propaganda version of Pinocchio that removes all of his self-responsibility. No one's going to be telling that story in 2 years, let alone 20, let alone 200, let alone 2000. There's a reason Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is still relevant, because it contains fundamental, basic, common sense fucking shit that we all know.
Yeah.
Deep down we know. And that's what I was saying earlier. Deep down you know all this stuff. You already know it. It's already there. That's how we've managed to propagate as a species, because we were doing that. Right? Like, a species doesn't get as far down the road as we have by not knowing this stuff. Birds know where the fuck to fly. Yeah. Birds fly halfway across the fucking world at a certain point of the year. They go, all right, we're going there. They know how to fucking do that. We know how to do what we need to do. Right? When it comes down to it, when the fucking shit hits the proverbial, like, we know what we got to do. We're pampered. Yeah. That's what I was saying. We live these luxurious lives like fucking kings. And people bring us food and fucking ring our doorbells and hear us fucking, we didn't have to go out and kill nothing. You know what I mean? You pressed a button, some motherfucker bought you a fucking feast. That shit's normal, right? We're like, and so when that is the situation, it is, as we were talking about at the very beginning of this conversation, there's a lot of danger there, because motherfuckers will take it for granted. They start doing fucking crazy things. They start fucking cutting their dicks off, fucking putting poison in the fucking water supply, fucking doing crazy shit, right? People just running around doing their fucking craziest shit. Like, yo, because they've got room to do crazy shit. At the same time, fucking geniuses will invent incredible things because they've got the room and the space to. They've got the room to play and to experiment and to do things that, like, people in times of savagery do not have the space to come up with. But when you're in those savagery fucking times, you remember the fucking core principles and you act accordingly. And that shit has always been there, and it's not lost. We have it in us, and we always have, and we always will.
Absolutely love it. So with that, let's I'm gonna ask my traditional final question, then we'll go into a random round. And so this question is: it is 100 years in the future. What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, I don't care. I mean, anyway, I'll still be here.
Yeah.
I'm doing Noah numbers, my guy. I'm doing Noah numbers. You know what I mean? Like, so 100 years, I'll be remembered for the amazing record I put out last week. In 100 years.
Yeah. The rate at which you're pushing out stuff is incredible. You've got the next 10 years planned out in this epic story.
I got
Longer,
100
years planned out.
I got that 100 years. I know what I'm doing in 100 years.
I love it, man. So let's jump into the random round. First question is, if the internet hadn't become a thing, what would Akira the Don be doing?
Yeah, that's an incredible question because so much of what I do is was made possible by the internet. Although it's worth bearing in mind, and I think about this a lot, when I was like 12, when I was 7, I was doing it. You know, when I was 7, I used to make comics and mixtapes, you know, and I'd
Mm.
sell them at school. I'd use them as bartering tools. So I'd give them to girls. This, you know, when I was 12, I was making a comic and it had I would review records in it, you know, and I was making music by taping things from tapes to other tapes. And I was selling these magazines and local news agents, and I was putting ads in the back of comic books, and I sold some to like some shops in America. I was very pleased with myself, to North America. You know, it was crazy then because I was walking around, I was photocopying I was drawing these comics and writing these magazines, and I was photocopying them and sticking them together with fucking staples, making big piles of them. And I'd go walking around like, and I was so excited if I could get like one news agent to take 5 copies, you know. And the internet was just like fucking 5 years away, and I had no idea. I had no idea that in like 5 years I would be able to make a website and thousands of people I could reach instantly. You know what I mean? If like you showed little me that like this thing called Instagram would exist and you could put up a picture, and not just a picture, but you could make a video and a moving video and fucking thousands of people could see it instantly, I would have fucking cried. You know what I mean? I would have fucking wept. Um, so the answer is like I would be doing what I'm doing now with whatever tools there were with that with whatever tools there were. The kind of information I'm interested in, the kind of stories I'm telling, um, those existed before, as we've said.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 15, 16, just before I left school, I was doing my GCSEs, which was the exams. And the only preparation, revision, or whatever you might call it, I did was I read my notes over ambient music and recorded that to a cassette, and then I would play it as I went to sleep.
Yeah.
So I was basically making Meaningwave back then and using it back then to program myself.
One of my friends in the audience, Eric Sims, I also turned him on to some of that Akira the Don. What he did was he took some lo-fi beats and he applied it to like some math lecture by somebody called Josh Starmer, StatQuest guy, and made some pretty dope, I guess, math wave type of stuff. So yeah, so I know we're running up on time officially. Do you got like a couple more minutes for one more random round question, and then I want to take a prompt and feed it through Dolly and see what comes up.
Oh, you sicko. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I've got half an hour before I have to go to CrossFit, so I'm good.
Oh, nice. So, all right. So you're
Get to go to CrossFit.
you know YouTube quite well. What do you think is gonna be the first video to hit 1 trillion views on YouTube? What would it be about?
What would it be about? Well, it's probably going to be something that already exists that has like a third or fifth wave of mimetic popularity, right? So it'll probably be Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, or something like that. It'd be
All
that
right.
sort of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you never know with YouTube. YouTube's crazy. Like
Yeah.
there's certain things that could pop off and do pop off. It could be fucking anything. It could be you, my friend.
Hey, hopefully it's this video.
You know,
So
be careful what you wish for.
I do this random question generator here. What's
Oh
one
wow.
place you've traveled that you never want to go back to?
Jail. So I mean, you mean like a fucking country?
Yeah, that's good enough.
School. I don't ever want to go back to school. You know, that's one of them things. I occasionally have a nightmare when I'm back in school. Like, this fucking
Pan-
sucks. I
pancakes or
don't like this
waffles?
place. Pancakes or waffles? Oh,
I
fuck
think I know
them.
the answer.
Um, yeah, fucking. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
Steak.
Yeah, exactly. Pancakes or waffles. You know what? I used to like pancakes, like the thin, flat, little thin ones. Like my mum used to make them when we was kids on pancake day, and you
Yeah.
put lemon and shit on and honey on them. That's
Mhm.
kind of dope, I guess. It's the lesser of two carbohydrate evils. I went to this fucking a park, like a excavation. What do you call it? Like a nature type park a couple days ago. And you just looking at people, and like so many people just suffering from obvious fucking carbohydrate poisoning without realizing. It's going to be one of these things that we look back on in some years and go, holy shit, that crazy time when people were running around just fucking ODing on carbs, those poor motherfuckers.
What dumb accomplishment are you most proud of?
I don't think any of my accomplishments are dumb. Like, you know what I mean? Because they all have meaning and resonance across time. I also can't think of any accomplishments.
All good, man.
Sorry, I fucking failed that question. I can't think of any accomplishments.
Let's create some art together. What's a prompt you want to feed through DALL-E?
What?
Let's create some art together. So prompt you want to.
Well, okay, let's test. Can we make something that doesn't somehow look evil?
Yeah. So just give me a prompt.
Is that possible?
Let's try. What's
okay, beauty.
Just beauty.
Mm-hmm. That's a prompt. Oh, did you want a big fucking recipe there?
We get 400 characters for a prompt, and so how we craft that 400 characters.
Sorry, I thought you were going to do it in like little section. Okay,
cool. Okay, well, this is what it thinks beauty is, just white girls. So yeah.
I thought they were putting in a. Well, she's not fully white, but see, they all look a bit evil.
Yeah.
It's a bit fucking wrong. Every one of them. This one, you start. Look at this woman here in the third from the right. That's how about terrifying. Look at this one, the teeth on this one. That's a slightly off evil Joker smile. Look, yeah. Anyway, so it didn't do beauty very well. Don't ask it to draw people. Have you seen it draw? I tried to make it draw Jocko. He looked like some like Mr. Potato Head.
Well, let's see what happens here.
Try it. Okay, yeah, go do that. Meaningwave Autonomous Zone inhabited by Naval Ravikant and Alan Watts.
I have a feeling it might just return text, but we will see. If you're listening to this on the podcast, just text. Yeah, it does weird stuff, man.
Yeah, it just does some crappy logos.
Yeah,
just does some dodgy logos. Ask it to draw the absence of desire.
Oh, nice. Let's see that. The absence of desire. How would you define that in words? The absence of desire, is that contentment, fulfillment?
Well, that's happiness, isn't it?
Happiness. Yeah.
And
this is interesting.
Yeah. See, it's just like
it's
like
strange.
Slightly off stock photography.
Yeah.
Like slightly demonically warped stock photography.
Like look at the fingers there. Those are
it's just disgusting. That's horrible. Look at that shit. That's fucking disgusting. Oh my lord. I don't know what's going on with this person with like bulbous things coming out their head, whatever the fuck. We have a padlock there with a ominous purple mist. Yeah,
that's strange, man. But Akira, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me. I know I've been looking forward to this. Like you're 100% doing me a favor, man. There's like nothing you can gain from being on my podcast. So I genuinely just appreciate
you to hang out with you bad motherfucker.
Yeah, thank you, man. No, I genuinely appreciate you taking time to be here, man. This means a lot to me. Thank you.
Hey, well, I appreciate you, brother. You bad motherfucker. You got an excellent t-shirt.
Yes. Check it out, meaningwave.com. Check out Meaningwave, Akira the Don on Spotify, on YouTube. You guys hear me talk about it enough. And you guys probably you recognize this. This has become the catchphrase that I end all my interviews with. You don't know where this comes from, but it is. My friends, remember, you've got one life on this planet. Why not try to do something big? Cheers, everyone.
Oh shit, I heard that somewhere. Boom.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much.